And for those of you who've just joined us, you just caught the end of the Cyrus Hicks Fund meeting. You have not missed anything for our normally posted agenda, which, assuming the town manager is in and settled, we can start.
Okay.
Mike, just
have a great night.
Good evening, Michelle. Thank you.
Hey everyone, how y'all doing?
Good, Peter.
Thank you guys for coming.
All right. Seeing as how the time is 7:04, and
the recording has stopped. This meeting is being recorded.
I will call to order the Thursday, January 21st edition of the Norton Select Board meeting. Let the record show that all 5 members are present, as well as Town Manager Michael Units. Welcome, everybody. Before we get into any of the formal business, in light of Sergeant Foss's funeral yesterday, I would like to just hold another brief moment of silence in his memory in honor of his friends and family and the fellow officers in town. It's a very emotional week for us here, and just don't want it to, still too fresh for me to move on without recognizing it. So we can just bow our heads for a moment before we get started. Okay, thank you for that, and for indulging me. It's tough week. All right, let's get into the fun. We have no appointments, resignations, or retirements this week, so we have some licenses and permits. First up is the ABCC 2021 season population increase estimation form. That sounds like something Mike's going to need to explain to us.
Mr. Chairman, that was something that we were looking at. In Massachusetts, there's a provision that if you have seasonal increases in population for every 5,000 that your population increases, you can get a seasonal liquor license. So I was just out of curiosity, I wanted to see what Wheaton was, and they don't come close to that. Their population living both on campus and off campus housing was 1,590. So we have no benefit from that.
Okay, so I take that to mean no action for this topic?
Correct.
All right, thank you. Next is the update on all alcohol package store licenses and special legislation.
The last time that we had a discussion about having an article for special legislation to obtain more all alcohol package store licenses in town, the board had some questions. So if I could just answer a couple questions that you had. I did talk with Ralph Sacramone, the head of ABCC, and so if the town did file for special legislation for additional licenses, and our population was to go over 20,000, I'm not sure it will, but say it did. Say you applied for special legislation for 2 licenses, and then our population went over 20,000, we would still get another license because of a population increase. The special legislation licenses stand on their own, and there's no impact by population losing a population increase license. Also, there was a question, we have one additional license now that was a special legislation license. It was Act number 413 of 1983. If you did apply for additional licenses and through special legislation, that would have no impact on this license. We'd always have that extra license that we have now, and also any population increases have no impact on that license at all. That always carries forward.
Okay.
And so I just wanted to see, did the board want me to put a placeholder on the warrant for an article to have town meeting approve filing of special legislation, and I can work on that with you and develop it. But, you know, the warrant does close on February 1st. We could just put a placeholder there for that now, and then you could decide at any time whether you want to move forward with that or not.
Right, I see Michael has his,
Yeah, I just need to recuse myself on this matter.
Okay. I'm going to kick this, Renee, to you as chair of the EDC. I think you probably have your finger on the pulse of this topic more than any of us.
So we did talk about this, and it's been quite some time. There wasn't any objection that I remember, but we didn't have the questions answered as Mike has answered. So I guess, you know, when we, and I know there are some folks on here from the EDC, my recollection is that we were in agreement Michael, I think you were at that meeting, right? We were in agreement to move forward with a majority of the EDC on the special legislation, but
I think the big thing was setting the districts, because we have to set districts where we want them.
Yeah, so and that's what I was going to allude to. So there were follow-up questions because what was presented, we agreed with the districts, but one of the districts highlighted was along 140, like more towards the Xfinity Center and Roach Brothers, and we had quite a bit of saturation there with liquor licenses already. So the question was raised to keep the East Main, East Main Street by exit 10, and then could we utilize another area of the town that wasn't so saturated? So I think that would be what I'd like to do. And Mike, I know on timing, you know, we have to have the language by the 1st, right? I'd like to understand what those districts are, and we have an EDC meeting next Wednesday, and bring that back in front of the commission.
You don't have to have the language finalized if you tell me to put a placeholder on there for possible filing of special legislation, then you guys can work on that over time.
Okay. What's our, so we have to have a placeholder by the 1st. When would we need to remove it? Before the warrant's final, right? So like 14 days or something before?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. So Jack, if you're fine with that, if Mike can get us just more information on the districts, and then, yeah, I need another liquor store in town. And then we have this discussion next week at EDC. Mike, if that gives you enough time, I think the date's the 27th.
Yep, that's fine.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to put a placeholder on.
Yeah.
I definitely wouldn't feel comfortable finalizing and keeping it on the warrant unless there was additional discussion and making sure it was a posted item on the agenda that we can get some public commentary on. And just to clarify, this is for a retail package store. This would not be another liquor license available for a restaurant.
No, we still have licenses available for restaurants.
Okay. Excellent.
I too would agree that we should have the placeholder put on. There's no loss. We put it on while we've got the chance. We can always take it off if we don't have the information or the proper wording by the time the warrant has to be finalized.
So, Mike, do you would you like a vote on that? Or are you good with just verbal direction?
I'm good with that. That's fine.
Okay. Super.
Thanks, Mike, for following up on that.
Okay.
All right. Anything else on that topic?
I'm all set.
No. We'll move on to announcements. I don't see anything listed. Do we have anything?
I've got a few, Jack.
Go ahead.
Just give me 1 second. I apologize, and I'm going to a couple of very important ones here. The first one was from Estelle. Veterans already enrolled in VA Health will be contacted by the VA Boston in order of priority for COVID vaccine. Currently working with high risk. The next group February will be 85 and older, March 75 plus, etc. Takeaway here is the veterans will be contacted if enrolled in the VA healthcare to schedule an appointment. You do not have to call. If you are eligible for VA health and have put off enrolling, it's never too late to apply, and you can reach Estelle for that. Okay. Sorry, just have another one. We have just a reminder from Park and Rec that they're still working on the DJ Nate visits. And if you have any special events coming up for a $10 donation to the Norton Parks and Rec, DJ Nate will come out to your house and play 5 or more songs of your choice. It's a great fundraiser for the Parks and Recs department. And yes, and from Beth Rossi, just again, if there's any needs or anyone in town is struggling from food to fuel assistance, or any struggles, Beth's office is open to kind of meet your needs from anything. And it's tough because we talk about, I texted her, I said, struggling on what? And she gave me a full list. What I would do is encourage, if you finding these times, especially during COVID, or need assistance of any kind, Beth can kind of help facilitate that. At the senior center, she can reach at 508-285-0235. And then finally, I have a message that I need to read from Chris Zonner. And if you would just give me 1 second, let me just get to that message. Where are you, Chris? Read it. It's regarding the restrictions on COVID and them changing. So if you would just be with me for a second and I can get that. Here it
I
is.
think in a nutshell, the restrictions are starting to lift as of Monday.
Yeah. So what he basically said, I just wanted to say that effective Monday, the 25th at 5 a.m., the stay at home advisory for the hours of 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. will be rescinded. Effective Monday, January 25th, 5 a.m., the mandatory early closure for business order requiring certain businesses to close by 9:30 will be rescinded. And January 25th, 5 a.m., the following businesses and activities listed below will operate past 9:30 and be listed. But I think the most important one here is 9:30. And gatherings may beyond any gatherings, and liquor stores may go beyond 9:30. I think those are the ones that really, he gave me a whole list here, but back to your point, he wanted to just make sure that all the businesses in town will realize that they, starting the 25th, the state has rolled back the rescission of the curfew.
That's great. Thank you, Michael. Any other announcements from board members? Seeing none. One thing I would like to plug again is the GoFundMe for the DeFossis family. You can use all the help they can get. I'll put the link in the chat, and just to read it out online, can be found either by Googling GoFundMe and DeFossis, or the actual site is gofundme.com/f/help-for-the-DeFossis-family. They've had close to 2,000 donors so far. That's an amazing outpouring of support for the family. So hopefully we can keep that going. All right. I think that does everything for the announcements. Moving on to new business, we have the long-awaited discussion and vote for the Town Hall Senior and Community Support Center and Athletic Complex on the warrant and election. So I think we are greeted tonight with some members of the PBC, including Chair Dinah OBrien. So Dinah, welcome. I don't know if we have any of your other members present tonight.
Yes, Bob Briscoe, the Council on Aging representative is with us this evening.
Excellent. Well, welcome, Dinah and Bob. So, to recap where we are, for several years now, the PBC has been working on plans for the town hall and senior and community sports center. They have now done site-specific planning for those two locations that have been identified with the senior center and community sports center on Mansfield Ave and the town hall next to the existing town hall. We are waiting on revised estimates to come through. I think that's February 4th, Dinah, somewhere thereabouts.
February 8th.
8th, I was close. At which point I think we'll have two sets of estimates to compare and contrast. In addition to that, there is the athletic field complex that the school committee has been working on for several years. They have put forward their recommended option, which I believe is option H, which probably doesn't mean much to the folks on here, and I don't have it handy to share. But this represents a substantially value engineered design for this. I think their initial plans showed somewhere north of $10 million, 10.2 million, and now it's down to either 5.8 to 6.4, depending on a couple of the options that go in there. So they've worked to try to get this as low as possible over the past few months in particular. The question before us now is, how do we want to prepare to show these to the voters? If this does go for a debt exclusion, that is going to require both a ballot vote and a town meeting vote. I believe, Mike, that those can be done in any order. You can see a nod and frantic unmute.
Yes, they can.
Okay. The sooner that we are able to provide direction to the PBC and their support staff as to how these will be presented allows them to start working on the presentation materials and the public hearings that need to go on, to try to get people on board and behind these items. So with that said, we had a fairly robust conversation with the school committee and finance committee last week. We did sort of an informal straw poll amongst those folks. And tonight we are reconvened to hash out amongst ourselves how we would like to go forward, whether it's individual projects, whether it's all three together, some combination of the two, and then the timing. Do we want to put this on the April 10th election and the May town meeting, or do we do the May town meeting followed by a special election? Just like to get all options out on the table there so we can try to get some dates solidified. We can start working on the communication plans. And Dinah, is that sum it up in a rather large nutshell?
Yes, it does. The only date that we are currently working under, which you all should be aware of, is that the purchase and sales for the Mansfield Avenue property ends on May 30th. That's when that, purchase and sales will expire. So that's a date you all need to keep in mind.
Yes, and that purchase. One second, Michael. If just that purchase and sale, the language in there has that the sale is contingent on approval of the project at, I think, town meeting and a ballot vote. So we were able to get that protection for taxpayers put in there. So, sorry, Michael, please go ahead.
No, Mr. Chairman, I think for our discussion point, I think we should obviously break these into little pieces here. I think we should look at, because if we're going to do that, to your point of, and I don't mind starting it, but maybe the first thing we should talk about is how they should be presented on the ballot. Or how do you want to go? Which one do you want to go first? I guess that's the question. Do you want to talk about how they should be presented on the ballot first, or should we say talk about should they be on the ballot first? So you guys give me a little guidance on which subject matter you want to talk about.
Well, why don't we talk about how they're going to go on the ballot, and then we can talk about when they go on the ballot.
Okay.
Hey, Jack, if I may. I know 4 of us were able to attend last week and Brad was not, so maybe it's worth a quick review of the overall project. And I know you alluded to both FinCom and the school committee kind of the unofficial poll that we took on how they would like to see it. Maybe we can provide Brad that information too. But I don't know if you were able to see the recording last week to get caught up. So certainly weigh in if you have not.
I do have some background on how people felt last week. I'm not totally in the dark like I usually am.
So, just for the matter of record, I'll state that the strong consensus amongst all members of the boards there was to put all three projects together. They rise and fall as one to prevent sort of the cross factions from arguing against various things, and to truly move forward as one community with one set of projects. I think that was that. So Michael, Renee, whoever wants to start talking about how you feel that you should be put on a ballot.
Yeah, I mean, and I think I made this clear last week. I really did see it being two separate warrants before last week's meeting. Just perception wise, I thought it was, not want, I need verse want. That is not what I say is I just saw them as two different things. One was more of a capital improvement, one is really just improvement of infrastructure. After last week's meeting, it really, the message did come across to me that it should be, that a united front should be presented, and that putting them together as one. The only thing that really does worry me is that the ballots, the perception of the ballot is, that the town hall are really, I mean, if the track improvements don't happen, the school doesn't shut down. If the town hall doesn't get passed, and this is really what I really need, the town hall and the senior center, or what's being proposed as a community center, isn't passed. These are buildings and services that will stop. And that's the only concern I really have. I want to present it as one project, one united town, but what really, I don't think the public understands that the town hall that we're working in is borderline. We're going to have to be rolling trailers in soon if it doesn't get improved. And that was my only concern. I would support it being on one thing as a united front, because these projects, these needs that the school have regarding these efforts is definitely needs to happen. The question is a priority level, and that's the only concern I have, is that people think, well, do they need tracks? So if they just need the tracks and so on and so forth, that doesn't shut down the schools. But if the town hall and the current senior center are improved, those buildings there's a very good chance that they're going to get shut down. And I just really need to kind of stress the importance of that. So, but to that point, I would support them being on as one warrant, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Meg, Renee, or Brad?
Mike, just to sort of address that, I look at it, I get what you're saying, but the challenge is, if we lose all these families because our school system is not up to par with any of our surrounding towns, and the facilities are falling, and they're not where they should be, then, that could shut things down, because we could lose a lot of families and we're not going to attract new people. So that's just the only thing on a cost perspective that I would throw in there. That's important to keep them all together.
And that's a very good point. Thank you.
And Michael, if I can add to that too, the extreme is, yes, it all shuts down, we don't have it. I think I've talked before about we need to have a backup plan, right? And to your point, people need to understand that with the condition of the town hall, we will have a spend. The question is, what is that spend, right? So either we invest in our future now for a building that's going to last and support the municipal functions on both sides, right? Both the community center and the town hall, or we don't, and then we come back and we're still asking for money because something has to happen with the town hall. Now, I think that we've proven, and through Mike's leadership with the pandemic, that we can continue services without the structure, because there have been multiple times now where we've had to close town hall and our folks have worked from home. It's not optimal. And it will, in addition to still having to figure out what's the cost to do whatever, repair a portion of it or replace a portion of it, we will then have an additional operational cost because that's not a long-term solution. We can't have the entire municipal employee population working from home. So that's going to add costs again to our operating budget. So it's not just as simple as, if we don't support this as a community, that's it and we're done with it, then we still have the problem on our hands, right? That it's going to need to be supported in some way, shape, or form. And to Meg's point, and we said this before, I mean, when people move into a community, right, you're looking at your location, you're primarily looking at the schools, and you're looking at the services, right? And this project with 3 of them together really helps to enhance that and keep us kind of in the running to not only attract, residents, but attract business. I mean, if we don't have people here, like, businesses aren't going to want to come either because you don't have a base, right? So there's a downstream impact here, and really, I think it's important to note, and I know, Dinah, you had talked to this before, and maybe we can just mention it again, right? Like, it's a tough situation. We're in the middle of a pandemic. There are economic uncertainties. People are certainly, stressed and have other things to worry about, and job security is an issue, and food security is an issue. But we're looking into the future, and we will bounce back from this. Like, we are resilient as people. And I think it's important to understand when we would start to see some changes to the tax, to our tax implications, right? Because it's not immediate. It's not like it's going to happen tomorrow if we say, yes, okay, we support these projects. So Dinah, I don't know if you have that available, or Mike, if you have kind of a timeline that we can just give an overview of for the understanding of that, but I think that would be helpful.
I think that's a Mike question.
Okay, I wasn't sure who spoke to it before.
Mike was about to say that's a Dinah question.
Well, we'll have a better idea on that on the 8th when we get the report from the architect, but I know that the architect had said previously that we'll be looking at 3 years. The fields might not take as long, obviously, as the buildings, but you figure if town meeting approves, if the ballot question's approved in April, town meeting approves it in May, then we have to go out and do an RFQ for an architect and an RFQ for our owner's project manager for each project. And they'll have to be designed and reviewed and approved by the building committee. So at the least, you're looking at least a year, probably longer, before construction would even start. So, you're not looking for a major impact on the taxes for 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, your borrowing does not begin until construction begins, so at least a year and a half.
Hey, Dinah, you could answer that question.
Could I just say one other thing?
If I may,
Yep, go ahead, Brad.
go ahead, Mike.
Oh, I was just going to say.
I'll defer to Mike.
I was just going to say, and if you remember with all these projects, all 3 of these projects, they're projects that can be used by everyone in town, from the town hall where there'll be a community room that town groups can use for their meetings, not just, say, I don't know, just throwing out Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, whoever. And at the Council on Aging Support Center, there'll be space in there so that recreational activities can be there. And then obviously, people in town will be able to use the track and the fields. So, it's not just benefit for the schools, for the fields, and for the town hall, for the town hall. These buildings and fields will service everybody in town.
And if I could add also, from the building committee's perspective and working with this for so many years, what we have really discovered is that Norton is in the position now of having a crumbling municipal infrastructure for buildings and fields and locations. And while things might look, excuse me, very well as you're driving past a field or you're driving past a building and, thinking, oh, isn't this quaint New England? It's a bit like looking at someone's lawn as you're driving past the house. It looks great until you get out of the car and start walking on the lawn, then you realize that the entire structure is dandelions. It's time to address this as a group and take care of town buildings, town facilities, and move us forward.
Well said.
Brad, back to you.
Yeah, my personal opinion is that while we may need all three projects, we have to prioritize, and in my mind, the buildings are the priority. So I don't know if there's a way, if we're going to bundle them together, if we can stagger the construction and the borrowing, so that it doesn't all hit at once, to make it a little more financially tolerable to the taxpayers.
If I might, Mr. Chairman, you know,
Please do.
when we do go out to bid for these for the building part of this project, we do need to consider the economy of scale of bidding both projects together with the same architect, with the same general, with the same subs, if possible, in order to stretch the money a little bit farther. If you bid them separately and have to deal with multiple companies, you're really not getting the benefit for the taxpayers of the economy for scale. So while it would be nice to do one this year and then one in 3 years, you're going to wind up spending more money.
I probably misspoke and didn't explain myself. I think the building should be taken care of first and the fields come second, because like Michael had indicated, the buildings are at a point where they're almost not usable. They don't function properly. And while the fields are deficient, they aren't totally worthless. And we can get by for a couple of years. And I just think that they are, while they're important, they're secondary to the two buildings that we need. So I would have no problem doing buildings first and then the fields.
Hey, Mike, can you explain the borrowing? Because I think right now with the rates, like, is it more advantageous for us to borrow the entire amount at one time, or risk having a different rate and borrow separately? How would that work?
Well, Catherine's still on. I don't know if she wants to comment. Hopefully she does. But I would think that you get a better rate right now, obviously, with the way rates are right now. And you may also do better with a larger borrowing than broken up into smaller borrowings. Here she comes. She's gonna straighten me out.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Please do, Kathy.
Okay, yes, it would probably be more advantageous to borrow more upfront. The problem is you can only borrow what you're actually spending. So we would have to take out bands, which are bond anticipation notes, for what we would need, like for the first year and then the second year, because it sounds like it's going to be like a 3-year process. And we are not allowed to borrow more than we're going to spend in that particular, like, 1-year period of time, if that answers your question.
So I guess, Kathy, in respect to the interest on it, and kind of Brad's point, would it financially make more sense to do them all at once to take advantage of the low interest rates? Let's rephrase that, instead of saying all at once, like simultaneously, right? So that the earlier costs, or earlier in the project, the costs are more while the rates are lower. Like, can you kind of dumb it down for me, I guess, is what I'm asking?
Well, the way it works is you can't final borrow the projects until they're almost done, or, like, say, if it's a 3-year process and say the town hall's done first, then we could final borrow that portion. And then you would work on the next project. I do understand what you're saying about the interest rates. And it would be less money if the interest rates stay low, but we still have to do it over the, 30 years?
Yep.
So, and it was, so the first few years, of course, you're gonna be paying more interest, so those few years, you're gonna have more on the tax rolls, and then as you pay it down, it'll be less and less and less. So it's not gonna be the same amount on the tax bill for the full 30 years, because things are dropping off, plus some of the other debt on the schools will start getting less and less as well from those other two borrowings we had.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask Catherine a question?
Please do, Mike.
So also, Kathy, we can't borrow for as long a term for field projects as we can for buildings, I believe, correct? So it may have to be a separate borrowing for the fields.
That is correct, that we can't borrow for as long, but we can still do the same borrowing.
Okay.
Right now, we have a couple that are falling off quicker than the other ones because they were shorter time periods. And I think it was also a field at the school or the bleachers or something.
May I ask a question, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Dinah.
Okay, Catherine, what you're speaking to is how you would go to the market and borrow funds to complete these projects. And that is completely separate from whether or not the town votes for these projects all in one article on the ballot or in the warrant. What you're talking about is after those votes are taken and approved, how you then go out to the bond market to acquire funding.
That is correct.
Okay, so they're apples and oranges.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I had it. Thank you.
Yes, I am not allowed to even temporary borrow without a vote at the town meeting.
Correct. That's what I wanted to understand, that how you go out to the bond market is not related to whether or not all of these are on the same article or not.
That is correct, and it can't be on speculation. It has to be actually voted and approved. Correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep, Michael.
Kathy, and from what I saw from the estimates, does the 450 to 600 in that range per year per household, give or take, on an average of about 375, that's where we'd be falling? Is that what we're seeing as an expense?
That's kind of out of my jurisdiction. That would go with how the houses are assessed and what the tax rate is, and then what is added on to it. But that sounds like it would be about right for that amount of money that we're looking to borrow.
Okay, I just want to get that out there, Mr. Chairman, just for the point of reference.
Yep, no, I think we have some initial projections from, I don't know if it was from James or about that. So any other talking points on bundling? Sounds like there's 3 in favor, 1-ish. I come down on I think it's all or nothing, for all the reasons that have been said. It's taking one collective investment in our community, for me, would be the right way to go. And I understand that this is a quintessentially Norton thing to do, to ask for a giant debt exclusion in the tail end of a horrific pandemic and some economic turmoil, but that seems Norton. We don't do things the way other folks do, so why should we start now?
Mr. Chairman, can I just follow up on one of my comments? I just want to be clear that I went into it having really kind of said that it was going to be 2 separate items after the meeting, and it was actually pretty impressive, the joint meeting, everyone coming together. I would be voting for it as one bundle. I just am really, really, really scared that it won't pass, and it's gonna. I think the town people, I really have to understand this will have truly this isn't one of those kind of override decisions. This will have an immediate impact if it does not pass on the operation of our town, of both the town hall and what will be a community center and or senior services. Those buildings are at the end of their life.
That is correct. And Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the article immediately following the one that we are discussing, that's a placeholder right now, is for funds to take care of at least the town hall. And I think the current council on aging building needs to be in there to get them up to snuff to go for several more years. And that in itself was, I think, north of $5 million for town hall. And that's to say nothing of the feasibility of doing such a thing. Basically, the building would need to be shut down indefinitely to allow for a massive overhaul. And then that still would not solve a number of the problems that exist there. You're still cramped on space. So we are trying to approach it from both sides there. If these projects don't pass, here's the next piece, is that we need to invest. And I believe that would not be able to be done via a debt exclusion. So it would have to come out of the operating budget, which is already scary enough. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
It actually could be done by a debt exclusion.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
There was also, I think it's, for the discussion, I think it's very important that the plan, that it's mentioned about the permanent building committee's discussion on, right now we have a council on aging. The new building is a community service center, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe yourself or Dinah could correct me on the usage of, that is a larger, the vision is a little bit larger than what we currently have as well.
Yes.
Correct. Dinah, I'll punt that to you.
Okay, yes, the building is the same footprint that we had when we were proposing construction on Elm Street, so it would be used as a community center as well as a council on aging.
Right.
That could be envisioned with public meeting space when the council is not using, the building for its services. As I said, public meeting space, recreation. It would be definitely open to the entire community. Plus, the piece of property is ideal for passive recreation on municipal property. So it's quite open.
That's great, because I think the need for other parts of groups or nonprofit groups to have a place right now, we have a massive shortage of meeting space in town for a lot of nonprofit organizations in town.
Correct.
Jack, if I may,
Please go ahead, Renee.
I'd like to move that the board support the Council on Aging Community Center, Town Hall, and School Sports Complex projects as one warrant article and one ballot question.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Do we have any other discussion on this topic? Seeing none, we'll go to the vote. Meg?
Yes, all three.
Michael?
Aye.
Brad?
I reluctantly vote yes because of the need for all three things.
Okay, we will note that. Thank you. Renee?
Yes.
And I too vote yes. All right. Question one is done. Thank you. Now, in terms of timing, so they will appear as one. When do we want to put this forward? I would like to propose that we consider doing the town meeting first, which I think is sometime in early May. It gives the PBC and the support team an extra 4 to 5 weeks worth of time to get information out, to try to build some public support and get the word out. And then if it passes at town meeting, we can hold a special election. Now I realize that may require a revision or some understanding from the seller at Mansfield Ave, that the timeline may shift a little bit. That's my 2 cents, but it's worth less than that. at the current exchange rate. So please chime in how you feel.
So Jack, I can, unless Michael, you want to go first? I can certainly go first.
Overnight.
Thank you. So Jack, I've actually pinged a couple people, or several people actually, to kind of understand what the opinions are. So, you know, I think of it, and again, we're in a pandemic, right? So things are different. So I think of it from a perspective of, you know, what is best for the townspeople? What is the safest for the townspeople? And you know, two things come up. One is trying to limit the exposure of people, not only at town meeting, but also at the polls, and having to go to the polls 2 separate times. And so I have some questions around that. The first is, and let me double back here for a second. You know, when I was thinking about, and I know we've talked about the order of this before, but if I think about how the initial Town Hall and Community Center project was proposed, and just the conversation at town meeting of that, I think that it's more valuable to have the discussion at town meeting before people are asked to vote on it, because Dinah and team, like, while I feel you guys will do everything in your power to get that message out, I think that there are people who rely on the town meeting to come out and voice their opinion. And so I almost feel like if we put the vote before town meeting, the ballot vote before town meeting, that could be perceived like we're trying to dupe people or not make sure they're fully informed. So I support doing the town meeting first to have the discussion and then having it voted later. What I would ask is if we know the timing of, so I'm just gonna like run some variables here, right? So the concern initially was putting the debt exclusion on with the charter commission vote or the change in government. I know that if the proposal from the charter commission passes, then there has to be a future vote to elect council members, I believe, town council members, and I might be botching the nomenclature here, so I apologize. What I would like to know is what is that timing? Because while we have the May 30th PNS date right now that we have to consider, if we are already bringing people or potentially bringing people back to the polls in June, then I would see those things going together. So again, we're not having 3 separate town elections. So just again, another variable that I'd like to put out there for discussion, because I don't know what that timing is.
We just so happen, I believe I saw the chair of the Charter Commission lurking in our meeting. So if I may put you on the spot, Laura, unless you disappeared, do you know the timing? So should the charter changes go through in April when that election would need to take place?
Isn't it June?
Yes, it is June. Special election following the effective date of the chart of the select board shall meet to schedule an election on a convenient date in June of 2021.
Okay. So I think, Renee, that would make sense, that there's a provisional date held for both of those votes, should they be successful at their respective ballot and town meeting.
Mr. Chair.
Michael? Yep.
So I'm gonna go away from you guys on this. My belief is that it should be on right with the regular, in the order as the elections first and then town meeting. We can always bring it back. I want to try to limit, especially with COVID, limit the number of special elections and other issues here. We don't even know the couple of main reasons that this, and I'm gonna probably refer to Lucia after my comments. Right now, it's still up in the air that we may have to do mail-in voting, okay? And if that's the case, that's gonna drive all of the elections up. So we need to start consolidating this. I also think it's important. These are 2 very big issues within our town. I would love to see, the population show up and vote, good or bad. This is an all or nothing thing. And I think it's important that we do it as one ballot, one election with 2 big issues with a great turnout. And the great thing is if it doesn't pass the election, but does pass town meeting, we can always put it on the following election. So it's, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, if I'm wrong about that. Am I off base on that? That if it failed the first election, passed town meeting, we can make the following election? Is that accurate or not?
You can do it so if it fails in April,
Yeah.
you could always bring it up at town meeting. And if it passes at town meeting, then you could schedule another special election after that.
Okay. Or could we push even to the following election?
You could, yeah. Or if it fails in April, then you can say, well, we're not going to take it up in May. We need to have more discussion to find out why did people vote against it and bring it up at the special in the fall.
Yeah.
So
my only argument with the town election, and I respect your opinion, Renee. However, we know 100 people show up to town meeting, and so it's the same folks that are going to be showing up, and we pretty much could all name them, so we could go out in advance and have conversations with them. So I just think it's to just do it for that sake. I'd rather, to Michael's point, like, let's just rip off the Band-Aid, let's get this done. We do have multiple more opportunities. And who knows if what happens if it does pass or it doesn't pass, but the Charter Commission passes and there's a new elected body and they have new legislative powers. And so it totally changes everything in terms of, I don't know. I think why not just do it? People have been talking about it for years.
Yeah, and I've had those same thoughts too, and I came to kind of two conclusions with it. One is, and I know, Michael, you alluded to this, like I was on the website and Lucia had posted the absentee ballot, right? So I'm like, okay, so we could potentially reduce the number of people at the polls, and I'll have Lucia confirm that. The other thing I was thinking too is, we've had a couple people who've asked us previously about why are we talking about this? Why are we doing it now? We have the pandemic, there's so much going on. And so when I considered the debt exclusion, the Charter Commission, and then all of the positions, right? We have the Select Board, the Planning Board, the School Committee. It's a lot. And while I think in normal times, I think, yes, it would make sense. Like, and as a townsperson, right? I don't want to come to multiple elections. Like, I want it done all at once. But there's so much, like, environmentally and socially going on that, like, I felt like I think it's just overwhelming for people, right? And I would rather them be more informed and more comfortable with it than just go out there and vote to get it done quickly because they're there for another reason. So that, I struggled with the same thing, and so I was trying to figure out, well, if we do it differently, how would that impact timeline? How would that impact people? And the other thing I think too, with May 8th, if the article fails, right, then there's no need to call another election. So at least at that time, because I would think we'd want to take some time to regroup and not send it to the polls, right? The other thing too, and I don't know if this fits in the discussion, but I also think from a perspective of the warrant article, while we voted one warrant article, I think we should call a special town meeting and have that article, the debt exclusion, first in the special town meeting so it can open and close, and then we can move on with the rest of the town meeting. And I think of that based on the number of people that will show up for the debt exclusion, so that they have the opportunity to vote, and then for other things, once it's closed, they can leave, and we have the 100 people there that are typically engaged in town meeting. So that might be a separate discussion, but I was thinking of that too. Again, like in the interest of how do we safely do this, understanding, of course, that, right, this is a couple months out, and hopefully the vaccine will be more readily available, and people will take advantage of it, and we lower our risk that way. But there's still going to be a risk, right? We're still going to have to follow the same protocols, mask, social distancing. So it's still a challenge logistically. But I totally understand what both you and Michael are saying, and Jack too.
Yeah,
I also agree that it should be one ballot, one vote. I wouldn't want to try to get that many people out. I want as many people as possible to come, and voice their opinion. And I don't want to make them jump through hoops twice or three times if we can do it once.
So can I propose a slightly different way of approaching this? And having worked with the PBC for closing in on 2 years now, year and a half, I know they're passionate to bring this forward. Having sat through our joint meetings with the school committee, with ourselves, with finance committee, I mean, there is a true sense that these projects need to happen. And I think each and every one of us wants to make sure that they have the best possible chance to pass, or at least get a fair shake at the polls, right? It's a challenging time, I get that, nothing is certain. Think about what an additional month could do in terms of public outreach, getting the materials out and having an engaged voter base. If we do stick with the April 10th, that's effectively 2 months away. We don't have the cost estimation data until February 8th. Being able to incorporate that, you have basically, I'm going to say 6 weeks at best to develop materials, get things scheduled, try to drum the support to get people in. If we can double that and go from 6 to almost 10 weeks by doing it in May, I mean, I think that gives the projects the best possible chance to get a fair shake. And I understand the complexities about multiple elections and special elections, and I am deeply sympathetic to that. I'm just coming at it from a point of, we have a very large hill to climb to convince people to vote for these in any year, let alone the type of year that we've had before. So the more time that we can work to convince people that this is the right time to make this investment is only going to pay off for us. So that's where I stand.
Can I answer that question? Because
I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I asked a couple times in meetings about if the PBC was prepared to go with a ballot in the town meeting coming up, and the answer was yes. So are you saying now that that's not the case, that more time is needed?
We will do whatever we need to be ready. It just becomes a slightly easier lift if there's additional time to do that. And Dinah, feel free to slap me if I'm speaking out of turn here.
No, Mr. Chairman, if I could, PBC is ready to go forward. We feel once we get the cost estimators numbers back, we're waiting to hear from 2 cost estimators on February 8th. Our timeline is then to come to the Board of Selectmen, present the project. We'll look forward to our time in front of the Finance Committee to present the project, and we are ready to go forward and address any public meetings and group questions that are available. Please bear in mind that the building committee is here for support and information. We will speak to the project on any street corner you all would like, but it is the Board of Selectmen and the directors of the Council on Aging who are going to be driving this. You are the public advocating groups, so you need to tell us where you want us to go and how you want us to go and where you want us to show up, and we will be there right behind you, providing all the information you need. From a building committee standpoint, my concern, of course, is the May 30th termination of the PNS. That will have to be extended, which is, of course, at the seller's prerogative, whether or not they want to continue. That is the one hard and fast deadline that we do have besides the date for the town meeting. So while you're doing your deliberations, I just would like for you all to consider these things. We're ready to go in April. We're ready to go in June. We're ready to go in November. April is really good.
Mr. Chairman.
Michael? Yep.
Yeah, I would like to make a motion to include this in the April election, to move the permanent building committee's recommendations to the April election.
Second?
Second.
All right, motion in 2
discussion?
seconds. Go ahead, Renee.
I just wanted to ask, I know we had an open question from Lucia. Michael, I think you had one, and I had also asked too, just to confirm, is absentee ballots going to be available for the town election?
You hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yep.
Okay. Hi, good evening. Mr. Chair, I'm going to give you the town clerk's aspect of this whole thing. First of all, in legislature right now, which could even affect our April election, is mail-in ballots, which are going to probably be mandatory for every single election in the future. We're looking at high costs. If that comes through, we have over 14,000 registered voters, and a postcard will have to be sent to each one, like the presidential, at our expense. You're also looking, when they come back, the mail-in ballots, we mail out the ballots. There's an extreme amount of work and deadlines involved in these elections if that happens. And it's going to be, this happens, you're going to take 3 elections. If the charter goes through and you have an election in April, May, or June, you're looking at the cost of probably about $36,000 for all these elections. And also the risk of the poll workers, they're getting more difficult to find. They are seniors and they're starting to really hesitate about getting out there to work. They're getting scared. But I think we should look at the costs, and also if this goes, it starts the mail-in ballots. If you go with an election in April, May, and June, we've got deadlines we have to meet, and you probably find that we'll be working on a town election and getting ready to mail out of the ballots for the May election at the same time. The time limits are going to really, for 3 months, collide. If there's a possibility, I was just thinking about it, if there's a possibility that if you want to wait till May for the charter, the debt exclusion, then could we postpone somehow the town election and hold that in May along with the other? So we can cut costs down, do something to cut costs, because time-wise and cost-wise, it's high. It's very expensive.
I think the charter needs to have that vote in April, I think, right? It's a certain amount of time from when it was passed.
Oh, that's right, I'm sorry, okay.
Yeah, and I think if I remember from our discussion with Laura, because we were concerned with if something does take a turn for the worse with COVID, would we be able to postpone it due to the emergency? And that would be the only case, if I remember correctly, in which we could do that. We couldn't just move it.
If I could just weigh in. This is Laura
Yep,
Parker.
go ahead, Laura.
I believe it's the date selected by the select board. So the annual election date selected by the select board is when we would go for the vote. So whatever date you decide.
And
Okay, so there is some flexibility with that April
Yes.
10th date if you wanted to. Okay.
Well, we decided it already, so can we modify that?
I think you're gonna, at April, if you're gonna modify, you're talking about modifying in April?
Yeah, I think that was the question.
That we're getting into Easter and school vacation, so Saturdays,
Actually,
Mr. Chair, we've got a motion at this point. I don't mean to be difficult, and I know we want to do conversation here, but we do have a motion.
Renee asked for discussion, so we're just going through, trying to find the right path here.
I think this might be out of,
Discussion needs to be on point of the motion.
yeah, I think this is out of scope, Jack, because we did already determine that to be the date, and we have positions that need to be filled. It's not just the charter commission ballot question that's on there.
Yep. All right. So you good with the discussion, Renee? And go to vote?
Yeah, I am. I was just wondering about the absentee ballot. So it sounds like, yes, we will have it, and potentially it will become mandatory where the cost and the effort for the town is going to be greater, which I don't think that that weighs in this particular situation. So thank you, Lucia, for letting us know that that's the case.
All right. Any further discussion?
Yes,
I'm sorry, Peter, I meant with the board members. I'll circle back to you in a little bit. Seeing none, we'll go to the vote. Michael?
Aye.
Meg? Brad?
Yes,
Renee?
Jack, and I'm sorry, I just want to confirm we were voting to put,
The
Voting.
recommendation from the permanent building committee on the addition, on the new, the proposal from the permanent building committee on the April ballot.
okay, so the debt exclusion on the April ballot, yes?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I'm a no.
I am a no as well, but the motion carries 3-2. All right.
Thank you for the
everybody.
clarification.
All right, Peter, you had wanted to say something.
Yes, I lived in this town all my life, 34 years, and I've been to the town hall a couple of times, been to the town hall senior center and watched my lips on field, and it is time that we band together as one community and vote yes on all these projects, because we need a new town hall, because like Bob Kimmel said, we've been putting on Band-Aids in that building too long. And this COA building is a death trap. So we need a new community center, and we need new fields, because the fields are torn apart, and we need a new town hall, a new senior center, and a brand new athletic field, so we can move forward and vote yes on this ballot.
All right, thank you, Peter. We'll have you come out and hype up the crowds before the election. I think that would be very beneficial.
Chairman, if
all
I
right.
could just say one more thing before we leave the topic?
Please do.
The Building Committee is looking forward to working with the Board of Selectmen and the Council on Aging Board to get this information out. So you're invited to our meetings. We're looking forward to hearing from you, and any assistance you need from us at your campaign, your rallies for this, we're there. You just have to let us know.
All right, we
Thank
will
you.
not be shy. Oh, Michael's gonna throw his shoulder out again. What's up, Michael? Oh, you're on mute, buddy.
Point of information, sorry, Mr. Chairman. I guess that question, we are doing a mailing for the charter, and I believe that is at the town expense. I'm not sure if an additional pros cons on the building side. I know that's going to about 7,500 homes. I'm wondering if this could be added there, a piece to be added to that document.
I do not know the legal complications of adding anything to the charter mailing. I think that would have to be a question for town council and Laura
It
on that
cannot.
side. Okay.
And
There
also,
we go.
What Michael was referring to, I mean, if it can, it can't, but maybe this was an opportunity. We don't ever get a chance to do this kind of mass mailing where, we could sort of take the pulse of the town and do a survey and see, what are your top 5 things that you're concerned about? I feel like we just, between COVID and lack of sort of a cohesive communication, I don't know, just to take advantage of something if we're already sending something out, to also solicit opinions of people on the big picture, so.
Mr. Chairman?
That's about it.
Yep, go ahead, Mike.
I just want to caution you there. We can't use town resources in support of a debt exclusion vote. That is not allowed. Anything that you're thinking of doing, let me know. I'll run it by council, but we can't use town resources in support of a debt exclusion.
Yeah, I had some talks with the state office of campaign finance and whatnot. So anything that is done in support of the projects, I believe, needs a ballot question committee. And there's some intricacies about who can set that up and be involved, and town employees are expressly prohibited from either registering one or serving on one in any way, or soliciting. They can serve, but they cannot do anything that asks for financial donations towards anything. So we'll certainly work hand in hand with you and town council to make sure that we are staying on the right side of the law. And to just go back to make your point about trying to piggyback on the charter mailing. It sounds like from what Laura's saying that's not possible. The charter needs to stand alone. Did I hear you correctly, Laura?
That is my understanding, but I will check with legal counsel to be certain.
Okay, yeah, if you could just circle back, that'd be great.
Me?
Did you say you would check with legal town council?
No, I said I would recommend checking with legal counsel,
Okay.
but I can if you'd like me to.
No, we'll put it on Mike. Mike,
Okay.
can you just?
I just
Lauren?
approved the proof from the printer this morning.
Okay. All right. Anything else on this topic before we go to purchase and sale for the senior and community sports center property?
Mr. Chairman,
Zach, please.
good evening. Just a question, if this debt exclusion passes, is there a timeline, is there a deadline to spend the money? I mean, could you do it 5 years down the line? Could you do it, what is the law on that?
My understanding is that the town meeting and ballot authorizes the town to spend that money, but it does not obligate them to do it. So Mike, I don't know if there is a deadline.
I think, not a question, a comment for the board was, you may want to consider, instead of dropping all of a sudden, $500 increase to the residents, and I know this, Dinah would tell me it's, scale would cost more money, maybe doing getting all the money, getting everything approved and saying, okay, we're going to build a senior center this year. 2 years down the line, we will start construction on a town hall. And a year after that, whatever order you guys want to put it in, we'll do the fields, staggering out over several years and not dumping that huge increase up to the taxpayers. Something I think that you guys can think about, if it's legal.
All right, Mike, what are your thoughts on that?
There is no timeline. I mean, once town meeting and the voters approve the debt exclusion, as Catherine said before, we do temporary borrowing on what we need as we go along, and however long it takes us to complete all these projects, then we go out and do our final borrowing.
All right. Okay. And just to go back to, I think one of the comments that Michael had made earlier about the potential cost, the tax-based cost, based on what got sent out to us back in, I want to say it was, June, July, for a 30-year, the average annual cost to the house in Norton for, this does not have the athletic complex built in, is $344 a year. So that's
That was on a value.
it's a sizable.
That was on a value of 315, Jack, and I think Mike gave us an updated value of 370, average value of 375 after that July date.
Yep, no, that's based on a $372,000
okay.
home, and that is $92.66 per $100,000 of assessed value, and that would be the peak. That would be call it year one of the exclusion. So about $350 to the average home.
Thank you for that update. That's a big difference. So that's awesome.
Yep. Yeah, so I wanted to call that out. I know
for looking that up.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Thank you, Dinah, for that. Appreciate it. We have our marching orders.
Thank you. We truly appreciate it.
Appreciate you. Next up, similar related topic, purchase and sale for 120 to 116 Mansfield Avenue, the proposed site for the Senior and Community Support Center. So, Mike, why don't you do a brief recap and hopefully we can address this quick.
Okay, yep, this is the purchase and sale agreement for the property located at 120, 116 Mansfield Ave. The purchase price is $800,000. The closing date is scheduled for May 30th with the possibility of 90 days extension in case the state still has eviction prevention in place during COVID, and there is any issue with the tenants on the property leaving. It also has the provision in there that was talked about before, that this purchase and sale, once signed, is subject to a debt exclusion vote by the voters on the ballot, and also subject to approval at a town meeting.
So I believe that lines up with a lot of the commitments that we talked about making to the Finance Committee, and well, I personally made to the Finance Committee and the voters at the recent town meeting talking about this. So thank you, Mike, for negotiating that clause, so I do not have to get slapped by probably all 9
We
members.
don't want you to get in trouble.
No, I got to grow my beard nice and fluffy to absorb the impact. So I know Zach was working out his slap in hand. Okay, any questions on this one? I know we reviewed it in executive session last week or 2 weeks ago. Seeing no discussion, Chair would entertain a motion to sign the purchase and sale for 120 to 116 Mansfield Avenue for $800,000, contingent on the successful votes at town election and town meeting.
So moved.
Moved. Second.
Motion and a second. I'll go to the vote. Meg? All right. Couldn't hear you, Meg. Sorry.
Yes.
Okay. Michael?
Aye.
Brad?
Yes.
Renee?
Yes.
And I too vote yes. All right. And Mike, if you could prepare an update for us on the other property for our next meeting, that would be great. I know you're ongoing on that. Fantastic. Last item under new business is to discuss with Chief Clark the changes to public safety at Wheaton College. So welcome to Chief Clark. Thank you for joining us tonight on what can only be an emotionally draining week. So we'll try to be brief with you.
Good evening.
Evening. So I think we asked you to appear. Wheaton announced that they were changing the makeup of their police force, getting rid of their hired staff and moving to a third-party security provider. We just wanted to make sure that there was no issues from your end in terms of the partnership that you guys have developed. You know, they're very highly regarded amongst you and your team.
Yeah, so I guess it was on January 11th that they had switched to Securitas, which is a private security company. There's 2 remaining sworn public safety officials there, their director, and then what is now a new lieutenant's position. You know, they were advised 2 weeks prior that this was happening. You know, we historically have always had a good relationship with Wheaton Public Safety, and we will continue to work with the director as needed and as necessary to maintain the highest level of security and safety we can for the Wheaton community. You know, I guess one of the questions I keep getting is, you know, was the police department involved in this? And the answer is no, we weren't consulted, or it's really, you know, a Wheaton decision, and I can't speak for the college. It's also too soon to see exactly how this will impact us. You know, I think there's the other question that comes up is, you know, will our calls for service increase? And right now, there's obviously no students on campus because of the winter break. I'm not sure because of the pandemic when they'll be starting up, if they'll be remote or they'll be back. If they are back, it'll probably be another 2 weeks, I believe. So it's kind of, you know, too soon to see what the impact will be. You know, we will continue to work with the director. We're not going to handle unnecessary calls. That's why I said earlier we're going to, you know, handle necessary calls. But you know, the director is a great professional. He was a former police officer in Pawtucket. He was the chief in a college up in the Boston area. So he's very capable, and we have a great working relationship, and I don't see why that won't continue.
All right, excellent. Michael.
Chief Clark, correct me if I'm wrong, the officers that were on their public safety were sheriffs were deputized sheriffs, is that correct?
I think at some point in time over the last couple of years, they had been sworn in as sheriffs, yes.
Okay, and does that, obviously, public safety or public safety, just plain security guards, they don't have that, so it's gonna, any incidents beyond that, they can't, what's gonna be within their realm of responsibility? I don't know, something about a regular certified sheriff versus a security guard, I get very, very, and I know you do too, but you're probably playing it cool because you don't know how it's gonna roll out, but I get worried about that.
Well, prior, they were all sworn special state police officers. They had, police powers on the campus. Obviously, they're going in a different direction. I think they're getting residents' life more involved. So, from a law enforcement perspective, they have 2 sworn people still. I believe that there's going to be somebody on days and somebody on evenings. Like I said, it's hard to tell how this will truly impact us. They've said that the calls for service won't increase. We'll have to see if they do or don't. I truly don't believe that they want the calls for service to increase, so I think they'll work as best they can to make sure that doesn't happen.
I guess that's good and bad, right? It's, I don't know. I mind this next part is just a statement, Mr. Chairman. I am concerned about this. This is how situations escalate these individuals. I don't know their training or so forth. We know that when they're sworn state police, there are certain trainings that they're required to do. If they're sheriffs, they're required to do a certain amount of trainings. And, obviously they are held to that. And this does concern me as a whole. Well, Wheaton has never been a huge party school. It still just concerns me immensely. So if I just want to go on the record for saying that.
Chief, may I ask, and I apologize, I lost audio for about 10 seconds while you were talking. What authorities will this company not have that the current department does?
Well, I think they're more going to be more like, security with, absolutely no police powers. Anything they did would be a citizen's arrest, I guess, if it was a felony in presence. But they don't have any police powers whatsoever, with the exception of the 2 people that are still there. So.
Okay, thank you.
All right, anything else for Chief? All right, Chief, thank you very much for your time tonight, and again, you have our condolences for Sergeant Foss's.
Thank you. If I could just be very brief, regarding Sergeant DeFossis, this is just I think this has just been devastating to the police department, but also the family and the community. But the outpouring of support that has been shown has been, second to none. I think this is what Norton's all about. You see a lot of things about police reform and rhetoric and stuff like that, but we do the best we can to serve the community that we have. And I think that the community understands that. And I think, their show of support has just been truly amazing. And we really appreciate that.
Absolutely. Very well said. If there's anything else that we or the community that can do for you, your officers, or the DeFossis family, please let us know. It's a big hole.
Thank you.
Chief Clark, Sergeant DeFossis was a wonderful guy, and then he would see me walking around the town of Norton and say Peter, and I'd say Steve, and he was a great guy and a good guy, and he loved me to pieces, and Norton Police is going to miss this shining ray of light, Stephen DeFossis, and he sure loved me, and pray for his family, and to the Norton Police Department, you have my sympathy, and you have a good police department, and I love all their police officers, and here's some love to the Norton Police.
Thank you, Peter.
Thanks, Peter. All right. Thank you again, Chief. I appreciate it. And we're here for you.
Thank you, Chief.
All right. Any other new business, Mike? I think that's it on the agenda.
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Next up explains why I saw Chief Simmons' shiny head pop up. COVID testing and vaccination.
I think that was a compliment on the
Wow,
side.
I mean, that was a shot across the bow.
It was just like a gleam, like a.
Wow.
Ray of
Yeah,
light.
we were surprised how gray your beard's getting. I mean, Ray, come on, man.
Yeah, no, it's very.
You're a shining star, Chief.
Absolutely.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, please, Mike.
just before the chief speaks, I usually do, I didn't know, I forgot he was going to be on. I usually have my sunglasses when he's going to be on, but anyways.
I'm taking a beat and I haven't even started talking yet.
So Chris Zahner, the health agent, and the public health nurse couldn't be on tonight, but they'll come to your next meeting, because they're getting more information for you as far as vaccinations. I know Chris was on a meeting yesterday and they said, what we're going to tell you today is probably going to be outdated tomorrow. So it's just so frustrating. But anyways, as you know, right now, public safety has been receiving vaccinations, the healthcare workers, and they've now moved that on to home health aides, dentists, physical therapists. And then the next phase that starts next month will be teachers, transportation workers, and other essential workers that I haven't got a definition of what they're going to consider other essential workers yet. But I'm sure Chris and Donna will have an update for you at the next meeting.
All right. Thank you very much. All right, Chief and Mike.
Yeah, so
testing and vaccination.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Jack.
I was just saying, let's talk testing and vaccination. Where are we at?
Yeah, just a quick update as far as testing goes on our end. So as you all know, we have a temporary lab license. We've been doing testing for about a month or so now. To date, we've done 77 tests. 45 of those have been rapid antigen tests. 32 of those have been the PCR tests. So we have about 12 people trained currently to do the testing. It's been going pretty smoothly. We've developed some procedures for that to try to increase our efficiency and so forth. I guess I'm happy to answer any specific questions so that we don't waste your time just rambling on, but.
Who's eligible for the testing?
So right now we have it set up for, what my thought is for town employees, boards, committee members, just people that work for our town and kind of keep it running,
So and Chief, out of that population, like how many are municipal employees versus board members versus the Norton Public School employees?
I mean, in my opinion, I would say it's open to everybody as far as the different populations of people that have been tested. I'm not 100% sure what the fraction is. I feel it's probably been mostly fire, police, municipal employees.
Okay, and has Dr. Beata been in discussions? Like I only asked because I remember in his one update, I don't know where this update was, but he had mentioned he had about 130 staff members who were in close contact quarantine. Actually, I think there were a couple that were positive, but then the majority of them were quarantined. So I didn't know how much of that population then came through you guys to minimize the impact to the schools.
Yeah, I don't believe we've seen any of them over here to the best of my knowledge as far as that. I would say, we can kind of expand and contract as needed to do the testing. Right now, what we're trying to do is do testing at 2 o'clock every afternoon, and we've developed a mechanism for people to sign up. And what we've asked is that people sign up by 11 o'clock in the morning so that we can kind of get a feel for, what we're up against for that afternoon as far as testing goes. The people that are doing testing are people that are on duty. So there's also that possibility that, you can sign up for a test and be here at 2 o'clock and we could all be gone on a call. You might have to wait for a little bit, So I've also put in our policy, if you will, that people, if you have a large group or something like that, to contact me or contact us directly so that, we may need to hire people in if we have a big group or something like that,
All right, so it's all being done at the firehouse. You guys aren't going, you're not going anywhere to do the
Right,
testing?
that's correct. Yeah, so we're doing it at the fire station. If you're facing the building, it would be to the back left corner. So we have an apparatus bay over there we've been using. We basically have a toolbox with all the supplies in it and a computer earmarked just for that purpose. So we don't want anybody, no offense to anybody, but we don't want anybody coming in our building if they need to be COVID tested. We're happy to help you out. We prefer for you to stay outside. So what we've been doing is having people wait in their cars, and we'll go out to their car and just kind of line them up as they come in and do it right while they're in their car. And that helps us keep any potential COVID patients out of the station. And doing that one time during the day also helps us minimize any PPE wastage and stuff like that, because we have to get suited up with an N95 and goggles and gown and the whole thing, just as if they were positive. We treat everybody that we test as if they're positive. So.
Okay, great. And how's, I don't remember if you mentioned or Mike mentioned that we purchased the tests with was it the CARES funding?
Yes,
okay.
That's correct. Yep.
And Mike, is the expectation that as the supply runs down, that we would purchase more with the remaining funding that we have?
That is, and I don't know if Sean went over the criteria for someone to get a test. Did you go over that, Sean?
No, I didn't. I'm happy to get into that for you though. So, so right now we're testing patients that are symptomatic, obviously, or a confirmed close contact if somebody is positive for COVID. As indicated by the Board of Health or their healthcare provider or something like that. So, so it's kind of that's the common reasons that people get tested anyway. So we're just kind of staying right in step with the state guidelines,
and
as far as testing requirements.
And we've also required that they go through the health department and speak to the health department first, and the health department. I know there were people that wanted tests and then talked to the health department, and they're like, no, you're not a close contact, and you don't need to be tested. So we're limiting it to that in that way.
Okay, and is that spelled out in the policy? Only, to make sure that people don't travel and they come back and think they can, like you leave for February vacation week and you can come back and get a test because you have this mandatory quarantine requirement without it.
Right, and then we have 30 people waiting after that
right.
to do testing.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is spelled out in, I know you can't read the document, but there's a full-page document that has all the criteria on there. We've also come up with a link that people can utilize to register for the test. So when you click on that link, it brings you to part of our webpage that's not public. And there's a demographics form that we ask people to fill out. It asks for their department heads information, so we know who's referring them. And that helps us on a couple of things. If they're positive, we know who to contact afterward. Obviously, the Board of Health, town manager, and so on will be notified as well. But it also helps us get a jump start on putting their information into the computer system for the lab, because we have to enter in all their, standard demographics, age, date of birth, date of birth, name, email, telephone, address, and so on. And that's the longest part of the test, to be honest with you, is entering all that stuff in. So we've also come up with a batch form that eventually, as we kind of get some steam behind us with this, that I'd like for all the department heads to fill out. And if they fill that all out ahead of time with all their employees on there, it really, really cuts down on the amount of information that we have to enter. So we could, increase our efficiency huge if we could do that.
Great.
And Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mike.
I think I sent you the information. Representative Hawkins from Attleboro reached out. They're trying to set up a regional testing site in Attleboro, and for all the area communities. And so I was in discussion with him today. There's just some question about how it would be funded. The idea was that it would be $5 per community for people that get tested there. And so if it was $5 for everyone from Norton that got tested there, that's no big deal. But I think what the intent was that it would be $5 So say 100 people go there from Taunton, we're going to be paying $5 for someone from Taunton to go there. So there's just, we need some clarification on it. We might be better off just paying the $58 or $60, whatever it is, for someone from Norton that goes there out of our CARES fund, rather than committing to $5 for everybody that goes there, no matter where they're from. So we're trying to iron out some of those details, and I'll get back to you when they're more firm on that. Because the fire department can do some limited testing, but as Sean said, they really can't open it up to everybody because they have their own functions as ambulance and fire, that they just can't be dependent on to be doing testing all the time. So if there were a regional site was able to be established, it might be a better option.
Mr. Town Manager, I think, I know Senator Feeney, Representative Barrows, and Howard with Representative Hawkins, that whole area, this whole area, there's a desert of testing. And I know that they're pushing very, very hard, and the state said no, and I know that they're close to getting that done, so hopefully they can get that done for the citizens.
Only one more thing I'll say about that they had set up is that it looks like they were looking to do it one day a week, which is good if it's on a Wednesday and Tuesday you figure out you need it. But if it's Thursday, it looks like you're gonna have to wait 6 days. So and I think that's one of the benefit for us, to at least do it for our employees at this time, is that if you need a test, that you can get it that day or the next day, and the results will be turned around within 24 hours. So hopefully that gives our employees that are working hard for us, and some of them putting themselves at risk, gives them some peace of mind knowing that we can take care of them in that aspect.
Chief Simmons, thank you for taking a leadership role and kind of looking into this and kind of designing the program. I know it's helped lots of people within the town and trying to keep our town safe. So
I've had a lot of help, so thank you to all those people too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So can I ask a clarifying question? That regional test site in Attleboro, would that be an extension of Project Beacon? Is that how that would fall?
Project what, Jack?
Beacon, BEACON?
I'm not sure. I know it's going to be at the Attleboro Y, and Manat Health is going to run it.
Okay. Now, having had a series of exposures over the past week, I've become quite familiar with the area's testing infrastructure, and found Project Beacon, which is the state's free testing program, to be phenomenal. So if that's part of what we're tying into, that would be great. You book appointments online, so you have a set time to go. You stay in your car, and we had our results within 12 hours, which is crazy.
Yeah, I don't think it is, because I think that's the problem. They tried to get the state to set up a site here, and the state wouldn't do it.
Okay.
Is that PCR testing, Jack?
That was PCR. Yeah.
Oh, that's really good.
Yep, we got our test at it's like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and the results came through at 1:40 in the morning.
Wow.
So the downside is we had to drive to New Bedford to do it. It was a bit of a hike, but for peace of mind,
sure.
I highly recommend anybody who needs to get tested to check that out. They have sites in Framingham, New Bedford, Lynn, Malden, maybe. So
that's good. We're currently we're doing the rapid testing in as well as the PCR testing here. So if somebody's symptomatic, we'll typically do both of them. The rapid test takes about 15 minutes, but it's obviously not as accurate as the PCR is. So we confirm with PCR.
Excellent. Great. Any other questions for Chief?
Yes, Chief. I'm doing a good job washing my hands and staying safe and staying healthy. And vaccines are here, and Biden just came up with a plan on getting vaccines in public. So this pandemic is almost over. We do our part. Wash your hands, stay safe, be positive, and be patient. This pandemic will be over come spring, summer, fall. We can get back to our normal lives. Right, everyone?
I hope so, Peter. Keep up the good work over there.
That's right, Jack in the gang.
Yep, leading by example, Peter. Good job.
Right. I think, was there another section? Did we talk about the whole vaccination program?
Not yet.
I can speak to the first responders if you'd like. We've done about 40 vaccinations here. We did them on this past Saturday and Monday. Went very smooth. About an equal split between police and fire as far as people that were getting vaccinated. And so we're, as far as the first responders go, we're set. Everybody that wanted a vaccine was able to get one. So.
And Chief, do you know what percentage that is?
For us is about 58%.
Okay, total as a town, yes, or us
For
as
the
fire department?
Fire department specifically, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know, that's excellent. Do you know the police department?
I'm not sure. I don't know exactly what their total,
Yeah, we had about
staffing is
40. We had about 40%.
Okay.
Okay. It's interesting how it's like, the range seems to be between 40 and 60%.
Steve, do both of you see more individuals getting on board? The timing didn't work out, or is it just that's where we are right now, you think?
I can speak for us. I don't think we're gonna have very many more. I've sent out, emails even, 3-4 days ago asking, last call, is anybody interested? We'll try to get you set up, and I haven't got any responses as of yet. So I think we're pretty much, at least right now, I think for the fire department, I think that's gonna be where we're at.
When we started this, I think we needed numbers by November 30th, and I think the police department had 7. And going back and forth with Sean in the last week, we jumped like another 10 or so people. So I think there was about 18 or 19 or even 20 that got vaccinated. So, and there's one more. I know there's one more person that's looking. So.
That's good. And Mike, have we, I don't even know if municipalities are able to do this, but have we talked about or considered like any sort of incentive program to have more of the town employees vaccinated?
No, we haven't.
I don't even know if a municipality can do it. I know companies can do it, but.
You can't give people money. You might give them a day off or something like that.
Right. That's still an incentive.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would just toss it out there for consideration to try to get, numbers up potentially. I don't know. I'm kind of the perspective of if my decision is not to get a vaccine, you're probably not going to change it by giving me a day off, but that doesn't mean that it's, that's the case for everybody.
To be able to get to spend 15 minutes with Chief Simmons should be enough incentive. I don't understand why we have to offer anything else.
Maybe we can do that, right? A free night with the chief.
Yeah.
Me too, I'm all for it.
Do we have to provide sunglasses for anybody who?
I think I wore a baseball hat that day, just for the record.
So Chief, are we geared up to continue to support town employees in that way, or is this just limited to our first responders?
Right now, I would say it's limited to our first responders. Again, we can certainly, gear up and help and support. I know from the fire department, we can play a major role in support, whatever Chris and Donna come up with that they want to do. It's just depending on how many people we want to do it, it could get pretty expensive for us to start ramping up like that too. So, and then whatever that comes out to be, it's going to be 2 separate days for us to do that too. But I know I'm talking with Donna recently. I know they've been in conference calls probably every day, every other day. It seems like they're kind of getting steered towards like a regional concept, but again, I don't want to speak on her behalf because I'm not 100% sure, as far as that goes. I did hear today, Gillette, they were scheduled to do, I want to say, about 1,500 vaccinations today. And that's a huge amount. And from what I understand, they're looking at increasing supposedly that to an even higher number. So that may be what ends up happening for the vast majority. And maybe, on a town basis, we go out and do like targeted populations that can't make it there. But again, I don't want to speak on Donna or Chris's behalf, but that's kind of how I could kind of see it going. But either way, we're happy to support, however we can,
Yeah, that makes sense. We're certainly fortunate that we're so close to Foxborough.
Right.
I don't know what that was.
So, thank you, Chief.
No problem.
Any other questions for Chief Simmons?
Well, thank you so much.
No problem. You guys have a good night.
You too, stay safe out there.
Thank you.
All right, next up is marijuana establishments. So I'm assuming this is a Mike and Renee line item.
It is an item, and we have some updates. So a couple things. I think I may have mentioned last meeting, and I might be getting my information incorrect, but we will see another host community agreement in front of us, I would imagine at our next meeting. We have an applicant, actually one of the previous applicants, who is going to present to the EDC next week to talk about a delivery operator license. So the CCC changed regulations back in November, obviously after all the work that we had done in respect to the bylaw updates, and delivery was something that had been pending for quite some time, but they actually approved the regulation. So I'm just noting this to you guys. We will, Mike and I had some initial conversations with town council on this, and you know, whether or not we needed to make any changes on our end. It's kind of interesting because the delivery operator license, like in my mind, I associate it more with retail. It is actually more associated with cultivation and manufacturing. So, you know, it falls within our bylaw. There's really no issues from that perspective. She did recommend, and we talked about updates to the bylaw just to include this new section of marijuana establishments, like the delivery operator license or delivery operators. At present, it's open, and I think you guys remember talking about this during the HCA conversation, right? It's open to social equity applicants and social empowerment. I think those are the two groups, and I could be, thanks, Michael. So we have the HCA. I also mentioned too that one of the applicants, Exit 10, they are looking to do a ownership change where they're going to shift 1% of ownership to the female partner, and then they would also come back to us to propose an additional HCA for delivery. So that's more in the future. I would expect us to have to opine and decide on and amend the HCA on the ownership change prior to actually engaging an additional HCA. That I would see that like over the next month, but I can't be sure on that. Additionally, the applicant from Solar Retail reached out to Paul about the bylaw, and we have a little issue in the bylaw that we didn't catch the first time, where right now the bylaw states that in order for an applicant to get a building permit, they have to have a final license from the CCC. Unfortunately, you can't get a final license from the CCC until they come out and inspect the building that you have built. So we are going to recommend a change as well. And this hasn't been brought to the EDC yet. We actually postponed our meeting from last week. So it's one of the items for next week to talk about. But the plan is to modify the bylaw and essentially separate out the provision where we say that we need a final license to apply for a building permit, and just keep the final license attached to commencing operations. So Paul and I spoke on it today. We think it's going to be a fairly simple change, so we'll make those changes. Mike, we'll just need to make sure that we get the article on February 1st. So if you wouldn't mind, if you have, well, you know, I'll send you, Michelle, a note separately, but I'll work on that with Paul and then send it to you guys for review. I think it'll be fairly simple, and then we'll talk more about that as part of the warrant for the meeting. But a couple things. So otherwise, things are progressing nicely with Solar Retail. They expect in the next month or so to go in front of, or at least, well, two things. First, the recommendation was to go in front of the planning board and have a discussion about what they intend to do, have the planning board have an opportunity to ask some questions on it, and then they will come back prior to officially filing for their site plan approval and their special permit. So, so it's good. So it looks like, you know, no major hiccups, just the bylaw change that we'll have to do, but based on timing, we should not have any problems because they still need to get the other two approvals first. So. And I think that's the only update I have. Mike, I don't know if there's anything that we've talked about that I haven't mentioned.
Nope, that was it.
Okay. Any questions?
But I have one if no one else has any. How does the potential ownership change affect the the HCA? I know you said they would have to come back, but I know anecdotally how much due diligence that the EDC had done on the previous owners to get to a point of recommending them. Is this just a simple paperwork exercise because the folks that are taking over are known to you? I'm just kind of curious about that.
Yeah, so town council advised that it literally is just us amending the signature page. So it's the same two owners. It's Alex Pietro and his wife. And right now they're 50-50 partners, and it would just change where she's 51 and he's 49. Or it may even be just 50.1. I'm not sure, but that's the minimal switch. So town council said that she's seen this a lot too. It's not unknown, but it would just have to come back before the board to consider the amendment to the HCA.
Okay, so the owners are the same, just the ownership stake is being modified. Okay.
Correct. And that I think is primarily driven by the delivery option.
Okay. And is that the Exit 10 LLC or is that the other one?
Exit 10 LLC.
Okay.
Doing business as Cultivate.
Cultivate. Okay.
Just a question, will that remain Exit 10 or is that going to change?
It's to be determined. But that'll come in front of the board too, once that's understood.
I mean, that won't be Exit 10. That's not the mile marker that's on. I'm talking about legitimately it won't be Exit 10 anymore.
Well, again, I mean, their sign's not going to say Exit 10, it's going to be Cultivate. So their company name won't change.
Excellent. That's it for me. Thanks for now. Any other questions for Renee or Mike? All right. Thank you for the update. Look forward to hearing more. We're on to town manager's report and electric light plants.
All right. I don't want to get too much into this with you tonight. I gave you a lot of information to decipher. I met last Friday with Bill Keegan from Foxborough, Kevin Dumas from Mansfield, Joe Sausalito, who's the Mansfield Electric Light General Manager, and attorney Chris Pollard from KP Law. So Foxborough and ourselves, we're just discussing on what it would take to form a municipal light plant of our own, to have our own electric company, and what would it take for us to join Mansfield. And so I've given you different bits of information there and some information from Attorney Pollard. And if you'd like, if you have questions, get back to me. And at a future meeting, I could have Attorney Pollard come to talk to you if you'd like. Obviously, it's not an easy process. You know, you're dealing with an idea to move away from the use of electricity from a multinational corporation with lots of money. So there's different things that are involved, and I'd be glad to have the attorney come and talk to you about it.
I think that would be beneficial.
I agree.
I think, Mike, you should and on that. I think it's, for me, I think this is something that's kind of dear to my heart. I really think we should exhaust this until we're absolutely told no, it can't happen either by the town, Mansfield, or so forth. I think there's some cost savings, as well as our current supplier, I don't think is doing us any great service.
Okay.
So yes, let's plan that for an upcoming meeting.
And just one other thing, I just wanted to emphasize to people that even though the town hall is closed, if you have any business to conduct with the town hall, you know, all the phone numbers are on the website. They're on the doors at the town hall. You can email anyone at any department, and you know, if you have any questions at all, and if you have to meet with someone, we'll set up a meeting. So I appreciate everyone's patience, and hopefully we'll get over this soon.
Thanks for clarifying, Mike. All right. So scroll all the way back up here. Select board report and mail. Anyone have anything to share this evening? Seeing a lot of crickets out there. Renee shuffling papers. No. Okay. All right. I have nothing as well. Move on to warrants and minutes. I have approved payroll warrant PR 21-15 for the week ended January 9th, 2021, and warrant dated January 14, 2021, in the amount of $1,554,403.37. Invoice warrant AP 21-29 dated January 14th, 2021, in the amount of $1,271,130.22. Invoice warrant AP 21-30 dated January 21, 2021, in the amount of $742,015.31. I will admit the next item, I am confused as to where we stand on minutes, because Renee, I know you flagged something needing an edit.
I did. So at the direction of Mike, I just have to move that the select board reconsider the previous vote to approve the December 10th minutes, to allow those minutes to be amended and represented to the board. Mike, did I get that right?
Good job.
He's smiling. All right.
I just pulled up the email. I'm like, oh, I gotta get that up real fast.
Renee, I didn't see your proposed changes. Were they sent? And I just didn't see your email of the proposed changes.
Yeah, they were sent last week at some point. And there's not, I alluded to a couple things that I didn't see in there, and then provided some additional notes that I had. So the minutes haven't been amended up to this point for our review, but I did put some items on it. It was around specifically the conversation with the gentleman from, why can't I think of the company that's doing the solar on Park Street?
Dan.
Dan.
What's Dan's company? I'm trying to think. Let me look it up.
Is it Redwood or Bridge or?
Redwood.
I will second Renee's motion.
All right. So point of order, Mike, are we voting on new minutes or are we just rescinding the earlier approval?
First, you should vote to reconsider the minutes of December 10th, was it? And then vote to amend the minutes as recommended.
Or can we vote if we haven't seen them? We should wait on that, right?
Right. Oh,
Okay.
right.
We're just right now, we're doing reconsideration right now, right?
Yep. Okay. So we have a motion and a second to reconsider the approval of the minutes from December 10th. Meg, I know you're dealing with a sick kid. Yep. So Michael?
Aye.
Renee?
I actually abstained from that vote, so I think I have to abstain from this as well. Is that correct?
No, you don't have to.
Okay, then I say yes.
And Brad?
Yes.
I too vote yes. So
Do we
minutes
need,
have been.
I'm sorry, Jack, just point of order, do we need Megan to affirmatively vote since she did vote to approve?
No.
Majority.
No, you have a majority.
Okay.
By the way, Renee, this might be the first rescission of minutes in decades, I'm guessing.
We have amended before, but
Okay,
it
so.
just so happens I go to look for something, right? And I'm like, I know it was there.
All right, so we have rescinded the approval for December 10th. So we will come back to those at a later meeting once the changes have been made. Do we want to leave the January ones on there? I have not had a chance to look at them at all.
Is that on the updated agenda?
I haven't seen.
I haven't seen them.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll keep those on for next week. Next meeting is February 4th, 2021 at 7 p.m. If you have any agenda items to add, please feel free to send a note to Mike and Jen.
Jack, if I can ask a question on that?
Certainly.
So the warrant closes for the town meeting on the 1st. Do we need to convene for any reason prior to that date?
I would like to propose something to the select board to be on the warrant regarding the water commission.
Okay, Michael, do you want to talk about that now? If you want to send a note.
I guess I don't have anything to show. I just got the document and we're revising it now, so I don't have anything to show you, but I mean, if you guys are willing to, I'll be glad to explain what I'm proposing and we can decide as a group if you want to do a placeholder.
Well, I don't think we can talk about it because it's not on the agenda, right?
I'm not looking to vote. You can't talk about it even if it's not on a vote.
I don't believe so.
Ordinary, right?
Yeah, I believe it has to be within the context of the agenda.
Okay. Yeah, right. So why don't I do this?
Well, so maybe we go back to, should we get together before February 1st? Which is Monday.
My social calendar is, as always, wide open, so. I know you said you have an EDC meeting next week.
Couldn't we just have a placeholder put on the warrant and then we could vote at the next selectmen's meeting if we want to support it or?
Be able to,
I can't comment because I don't know what it is, so.
That would be fine. I can put a placeholder there for water and sewer article, and then won't have any description at all, just water and sewer article, and then you can work on that at your next meeting.
Okay.
All right, that works. Any other business to come before the board?
Yes, I was reading this from Attleboro Council Tom M. Culbertson. He found Comcast predatory behavior to raise prices for residents in a gateway community like Attleboro with no other options for broadband internet to be morally reprehensible and violent. Comcast needs to immediately lift these increased fees for communities like Attleboro, where their company holds a monopoly on internet access, and he respects the state representatives that spoke out in January against in this action, and he has read the dismissal form letter and propaganda Comcast sent in response. And he doesn't have a solution to any. He's open to ideas, but he wanted to take a brief minute to express his disapproval and frustration.
All right,
Motion
that is noted. Yes, we have a motion to, who's there that come from? Is that Zach?
Zach, yeah, just one thing, while Peter brought that up, it should be, I'm not sure if the residents know it, maybe it should be announced. I know Comcast has been a sore subject for the town for a long time and the lack of competition, but as of January 1, T-Mobile home internet is available in town, 5G at $50 a month. I don't own stock in the company, but there is a second option. I know Verizon is to follow with their wireless home internet service, but as of the beginning of this month, for $50 a month, you can get unlimited high-speed home internet through T-Mobile as an option B that has not, I don't know who knows about that or not, but that launched at the beginning of the year.
Cool. Thank you for sharing, Zach. That's great. All right, we have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second? Motion and a second. I think Megan's off dealing with a sick kid. We'll go to the vote. Michael?
Aye.
Brad?
Yes.
Aye, too. Oh, Renee, sorry.
Yes.
And I vote yes. I have my mouse over your face. That's how I go through, make sure I get everybody, and I just looked at you and I skipped you. So, sorry, long day. With that, this concludes the business of the select board. Thank you, everyone, for joining in, and have a wonderful night. Hug your family.
Good night.
Kids. Adios.
Adios.
All right, thank you, guys.
Au revoir and arrivederci, baby. Good night.